Join From Beer to the Bible every week as Ervin Lee and co-host Sarah Oliveira-McDonald warn others of the consequences of drug and alcohol addiction by being the voice of faith-based recovery. Every week, Ervin and Sarah help people get access to the treatment and counseling they so desperately need. They explore the depths of addiction and give practical life examples of how to recover and develop a new rhythm of living. The show is gritty, authentic, and simply raw while being rooted in the love, faith, and hope of God. Welcome to From Beer to the Bible.
Welcome to From Beer to the Bible. It's our new season, but it's the same old host by the grace of the living God, Ervin Lee. We are starting a series over the next 12 months that we are going to sit in and focus on the impact of addiction on relationships. Yes, the impact of addiction on relationships, marriage, family, friends, and loved ones. And with that said, I have two people who are going to help me delve very deep into this subject. Cory and Christina, please introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Cory Losier, and this is my amazing, beautiful wife, Christina. And we are super excited to be here with Ervin and humbled to be able to come on and hopefully provide some hope to families and people that are struggling.
Well, and I'm going to let Christina answer this. Christina, yes. Tell us about the new ministry that you two have co-founded. Mm-hmm. And then, Cory, I want you to tell us about the book that you've written.
Yes. Okay. So we have just now brand new co-founded a ministry called Ditch to Destiny. And the whole purpose of that is to bring hope and so people can see in a tangible way that you can go from the ditch to your destiny. And we do a couple of things, but primarily we're focusing on prison ministry.
Okay. Much needed. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Cory, drop and tell us about the book and when it's dropping.
Man, okay. So I decided to and felt led to write a book. The name of the book is called Born a Loser, which has a whole meaning in itself. My last name used to be, when I was born, my last name was spelled Loser, Loser. And so growing up, I had that last name and ended up living up to that name. Quickly went into a life of drugs at 13 and had a 20-year run with meth and homelessness and prison. And so lived up to the name for sure. And ended up in prison, got saved along the way radically. And just God got a hold of me. And I came out of prison doing something different, never went back to the things that I was doing before. And I noticed coming out that there was just a lot of guys talking about what they were going to do when they got out, and it was they were all wanting to go back to the same things. It's all they knew, and they just, everybody assumes that they have no choice. There's no hope. There's no understanding that you can come out of prison and not only do something different than you were doing before, but you can even be successful. You don't even have to just make it. And these guys I just envisioned like a herd of cattle walking off a cliff. These guys, the day we were being released, had people picking them up with drugs in hand. I mean, they were ready to roll, right then. Same people they were hanging out with before picking them up. And it was just sad and heartbreaking as I was on this journey to change, to see and to hear these guys talking about, after 15 years of being locked up, just going back to the same things they were doing before. And there's a saying that I've heard over and over in the many different rehabs I've been to. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. And it just rings so true. And so what the goal is, God has been so good to me and my family. I got out and I just did one right thing at a time. I didn't go back to doing what I was doing before. And I put the same effort into doing the right thing as what I put into being a drug addict and staying high for 20 years. I put that same amount of effort into doing the right thing. And God has blessed me and my family tremendously and beyond really what I ever dreamed was possible. Now we have this amazing life that we are able to give back, and we have a successful business, have an amazing wife, amazing kids, beautiful wife at that.
Yeah.
And so the goal is I wrote the book because I'm trying to reach people who are, I'm trying to provide hope to people in a, like she said, a tangible way. There was a lot of counselors that tried to talk to me throughout the 20-year stretch and even in prison. And people like me, we don't listen to people who haven't been there. You can have a degree, you can be a doctor, you can be whatever it is that you are. But unless you've been where I've been, what you say to me doesn't have the effect that it has if you've been there. And so coming from the book is really raw. It is my life from beginning to end, being born with the last name Loser, having crooked yellow teeth, being made fun of in school, getting in fights, early trouble, and then the whole drug addiction scene for those 20 years, everything that happened during that process, where I was, how it was affecting my parents, jail, being arrested, it's very, very raw.
It's all in the book. When we talk about the impact of addiction on the family, one of the things that's unique about your story is your last name.
Yes.
Just tell us what it was like to grow up with the last name Loser. I actually almost thought you were joking when you told me, because I went through my mental Rolodex, and probably you out there, I didn't know anybody with the last name Loser. I actually think that should be illegal. I mean, I do actually.
Me too.
Growing up like that, because innately, when you are young, any differences draw attention to you and usually ridicule. Right?
Yes, 100%. As you can imagine, it was hard, Ervin. We, in our house, we always knew when a salesman was calling because it's all, so here's the crazy part about it. So the last name, and of course, if you're like my wife, you are out there Googling that last name, and there are still some, my parents still have that last name. They did not change it like I did. And so growing up like that, we always knew when a salesman was calling. I remember it was like I was set up for disaster from day one. I would go to school, and the first thing they do at school is the teacher calls roll call. And so out loud, they start with the A's, B's, C's. And I just remember as she got closer to the L's, I'm just like, slumping in my seat. Like, I know it's coming. And then of course she says Loser.
Yeah.
And I have to raise my hand, and then everyone's laughing. The teacher's laughing. Then she's like, is that a mistake? And I'm like, no, that's how you spell it, and it was from that day, I'm the loser. I'm the kids coming up to me all day, every day saying, is your last name really Loser? And I'm like, well, it's spelled that way, but it's pronounced Losier. But, good luck convincing anybody, because it's spelled Loser. And so where the name even came from, I've had a hard time figuring out. But yeah, man, it was tough.
Okay, so Christina, now let's talk about, did you know this before you guys were getting ready to get married? And what were your thoughts on your last name potentially being Loser?
Okay. So I did know, and I was apprehensive, right? Especially because mostly I'm thinking about my kids, right? Like if we had kids, how's that going to be for them? But Cory was very adamant that that wasn't going to happen. He was going to change the spelling of his name before we got married, which is what happened. And for a small time, we wondered how that was going to work because he's a felon and you can't just go changing your last name, right? But the judge saw the way that his name was spelled and he thought it was a typo. And he was like, yeah, no. And so he let us change it. It was super simple. And it was done. So legally on paper, my name is not changed because I got married. It's just changed because I changed it.
Yeah. Well, that to me, I wanted to start there because that's such a good story. And I always believe, and it's biblical, what you say and what you think, and especially what you think in your heart. Sure. And then sometimes negative things get reinforced to us so much that it starts to become intrinsic and a part of our identity, right? And I find it very interesting that you did go down this road. I'm not going to call it that you were being a loser because you were in addiction. But then you met the Lord, and the Lord not only changed your name, literally, but he changed your identity. So tell us how you came to Christ. And then, Christina, I want to know how you came to Christ. Okay. And then I want to know how you guys keep Christ in the center of all that you do, because I know you're doing multiple things.
Sure. So for me, it was, it was pretty radical. I was 10 years in or so, and keep in mind, it was a blur for me. The 20-year stretch of meth addiction is just good luck knowing what year it was. But I think it was around 10 years in, and I ended up in this program that an amazing couple got me involved in and paid for, and I ended up face down in front of a lot of people, screaming and crying and begging like Jesus to come into my life, pounding on the floor, worse. I'd weighed 135 pounds. I mean, I had been using needles for some time at that point. It was just worst of the worst, lowest point in my life. And nevertheless got radically saved. And I thought that I was never going to sin again. Like, I remember I was smiling for the first time in those 10 years, and I thought, wow, this is, I feel so good. I'm never going to sin again. I'm going to find out who Jesus is, and I'm going to, live the life that I'm supposed to live. And, this is I was in my 20s, and that's what I thought. And then, 2 weeks later, I'm right back to doing what I was doing before. But the difference was the way that I knew I was saved is because, and that there was a difference, is because I was never convicted for doing drugs before. But everything that sin convicted me from that moment on. So every time I did meth, and from that point on, I was miserable, man. It was every time I sinned in any way, I was miserable. And so I knew that there had been a change in my heart, man. And
you knew the Spirit had set up for residence.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing what you could do from a sinful standpoint that never bothered you? Once the Holy Spirit starts to come and live inside you, it bothers me. There's no pleasure in that. So that's great, because I think that gives hope and helps people, our listeners and viewers, understand what it feels like when you have the Holy Spirit show up in your life in a practical and tangible way. Now, Christina, we got to hear about you. Give it to us.
Okay, so I grew up in church, and I remember them having an altar call like in youth group. And I specifically remember the feeling that I knew that I was his. And I went down front and did the whole thing. And then I was probably 9 years old. And then somewhere along the way, like it all got lost. I don't know what happened there. And then I was in Tennessee in my 20s. Okay. I was living there at the time, and I ended up having to have a couple back surgeries. And I think that the Lord really used that time to get my attention. And I rededicated my life and really got serious about, okay, I'm going to have to leave the community of partiers that I built. Yeah. And I did. And I got real serious about my faith and really dug in to get to know him. And then I ended up moving back home, and I kind of was the same as him. Like, you get saved and you dedicate your life, and you expect a real easy ride, and it wasn't that way. So, you start learning and you dig in, and that's what I did. And then, of course, you get married, and all of the things that you need to work on come out. And so it just gives you an opportunity to work even harder, and you stay focused in the Word, and you take your thoughts captive, and you move forward one step at a time.
When I encountered Jesus and I was in treatment and I rededicated myself to him, I thought the same thing, like, oh man, this is going to be great. This is going to be an easy ride. And it was for a minute. And then it felt like, whoa, all the trials, the tribulations. But now as I look back on that, what I realized is God was teaching me about his character and his attributes, his love, his faithfulness, his grace, which I needed to learn to be able to steward the ministry and the show that we do now that I just didn't know about. And there's no better way to learn than to experience them, right? So now I view the trials, the tribulations, and I say, what's God trying to teach me here? And God is very concerned with our character and character development and our integrity. And I was key just to admit to the world. But I want to go here, as you both were talking, give hope to those who are suffering from drug and alcohol addiction. Because the hardest thing to change is the people and those partying friends, because you can't imagine your new life with them, but you can't imagine life without them. So talk about that and give our listeners some hope on that.
That one's, Ervin, you said it, you hit the nail on the head. It's the tough one for people. Again, these cliches that I would hear in rehab are, people, places, and things, places, and things. And I remember it would just go kind of in one ear, out the other ear. And I never really, throughout the 20-year stretch, pre-prison, I never really got that, man. And I didn't do it. And of course, I ended up right back where I was over and over and over, same cycle. When I got out of prison, I took it seriously. And I did not. I never, you cannot go back and hang out with the same, you cannot go back and hang out with the same people that you were hanging out with before. It is what it is. You are a percentage of the people that you hang out with. You are an average of the people you hang out with. And so you become, I didn't say that. I forget who did, but it was not me. I don't want to take full credit for that. But it's the truth, 100%. And so, people, places, and things. I don't do the same things that I used to do. I don't hang out with the same people I used to hang out with. And I don't have the same behaviors. And the other part of it is, you can't just not hang out with the people you used to hang out with. You have to find new people. You have to find a community. You have to be intentional. It's not a game. One of the things that people, I think, do is they treat this addiction thing and recovery from addiction casually, but you can't. You have to be very intentional. Everything you do, every person that you allow into your life, you have to be intentional about being very strategic in who you allow to be in your inner circles.
In your social circles. Sure. That's good. And I love what Cory said. You cannot recover and take your recovery casually, consistently, right? You have to make it the main thing. Christina, give us some hope.
Okay. Hope. So I kind of, like, when I was first starting, I thought, I remember a specific moment that the Lord showed me, and I was partying, and he showed me like a fork in the road, and you can either continue down this. And if you think about it, there's a pattern in your life, a pattern of a certain type of people, a pattern of the things that you do. There's a pattern. And he showed me that pattern in my life in like a split second and a split in the road. And he encouraged me, hey, if you take this road, see what's down it. You've never gone down this road before. Yeah. And I thought, okay, and if I don't like it, I can always go back. Yeah. And so I went with that mentality. I was like, hey, if I don't like what's down there, I'm coming back because this is kind of fun. Yeah. And so I did. I went down that road, and that road led me to Texas and a whole lot of things, and a beautiful life and a beautiful community. And what Cory said is true. Like, you can't be the lone sober ranger, the lone Christian ranger. You get a community around you of people who will lift you up and who get pinged by the Holy Spirit to check on you, and for people to call when you're having a hard time, or whatever it is. So there's hope, and it's take it from two people who know both sides of the fence, 3 people. Yeah, the other side of the fence is a lot better.
It really, truly is. And you can't imagine all that God has in store for you. Right. And the way he will work in and through you and the people that he'll bring into your life. We were talking off air about the process of healing. And Christina, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Because many times, us as men, we get sober and we get so-called fixed, and we want our spouse, our wives to be fixed, and we want to black out all the things we did in the past. So encourage and just talk about that healing process from a woman's perspective.
Okay. So it's important, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. Yeah. It does take us a while because we remember all of the feelings that were associated with the awful times, right? Yeah. But it's interesting, in preparing for this show, I realized that I think I too also blacked out a lot and just didn't deal with some things. Yeah. And so this is a great opportunity for me to, you talk the talk, but I also have to walk the walk. And so this is going to be the spark of continuing down the road of healing. And I think we're probably far enough along now that Cory can be gracious and have enough,
Very gracious.
and patience to allow all of the things to come out.
So can I take a quick second here? We talked about, meth addiction and everything, but the scenario is, we're talking about what she's healing from, but she didn't know me. Christina didn't know me during the meth addiction. So what I want to say, and I really never got around to the hope part either. When I got out of prison, the only thing that had changed was I was no longer a meth addict. I did not do meth anymore. And so I did meth from the age of 13 to 33. So that's an extremely critical time frame where you're developing in a lot of ways still. Yeah. You're learning social skills. You're learning a lot of things that you need to know during those years. And so when I got out, I thought, oh, I'm fixed. I'm not doing meth anymore, right? That was my problem. That's why I've been homeless. That's why I've been in jail. That's why I, have nothing. And that's why I am where I am, meth. Yeah. But when I got married, a lot of other things, it turns out that I was not fixed, and just because I wasn't doing meth anymore. And so there were anger issues. I had lust issues. I had all kinds of other addictions that stemmed from the meth addiction, and just a lot of heart issues and areas in my heart where I was not doing the things that I should have been doing. And so the pain that she has and the things that she's having to heal from are the things that I caused when I got out. Just the way that I treated her, the way that the person that I was not the person that I am now.
Let me say this, and I'm going to look in the camera and I'm going to say this to all of those who are married to people who have been or are currently in addiction, or just a loved one of a person who's in addiction. And I want to say this to addicts and alcoholics. Although we get sober, that does not mean that we know how to live. Right. That does not mean that we immediately know how to be married, how to be in a relationship, because we are relearning all of the skills, the disciplines, and those things that addiction have taken from us, from our souls, from our relationship. And that's why I'm so glad that we're sitting here, is we want to focus on that and give people hope and let them know that although you go for 31 days and you do whatever from a treatment standpoint, the work is actually just beginning. And I'll say it to you this way, Christina, so you don't feel alone. My wife will say this to me on occasion. She'll say, "You're not drinking, but you're acting like you did when you were a Trump." And I'm thinking, what? No way. And then I have to go quietly and say, is there truth in what she's saying? There's truth in what she's saying. So we as addicts and alcoholics have to, the Bible says, be sober and alert. I have to be sober and alert for the old guy that lays dormant in me, and on occasion, hopefully less, that springs forth, because then that triggers my wife. So do you observe that now? Sometimes put you on the spot.
No, please. We're transparent.
I do.
Yeah.
Even just a couple of days ago.
Yeah. And under the bus, right?
I love it.
It's so true though. And you don't know, I think probably the best piece of advice that I would give somebody is, if you've married somebody who was an addict at one time, Cory got miraculously healed of his meth addiction. And, I was naive enough to be like, oh, it's great.
Yeah.
And there are programs out there for a reason. It teaches you how to deal. And there's programs out there for the loved ones of the addict to teach us how to handle and deal and identify. And so you don't think that you're the crazy one, right?
Yeah.
Not that he's crazy either, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so anyway, programs I think would probably be a big deal. I would do that again. If I had to do it again, I would do a program. But there are times when I see the old Cory come out.
Yeah.
And it's times where you have to press in and again take those thoughts captives and not react like I would have reacted before either. Give him space to learn and grow in his new way of doing things, and just some reminders.
What's been the most interesting thing of being married to someone who was a former addict, and what's been the most challenging thing?
Okay, so I'll start with most interesting. So to see Cory learn 20 years worth of social etiquette, and to put himself out there in what I know now is very uncomfortable situations, not knowing and having like self-esteem issues, and to see him grow in not just social settings, but business settings. It is the most interesting, and I have a lot of respect for Cory for navigating through that in a really what appeared to be easy way. But I know now that it wasn't easy for him. And then the most challenging thing of being married to a previous addict is, I think, probably gaslighting. Like me, like knowing like, hey, you're not, like, why are you acting like that? I don't understand what you're doing. And I'm pretty sure that you're lying to me, but you keep telling me you're not. But the Lord's talking to me about some very specific things, and you're denying them. And so I think it really took me a little while. It challenged my faith with the Lord, and like, hearing. Am I hearing accurately? Maybe I'm just all the way, maybe I'm the one who needs to take a look at some things. So I think, that's probably the most challenging, is confronting what you think is reality, but not really reality. Like a...
No, very well said. Now, Cory, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Please put me on the spot.
What has been the most difficult part of your recovery?
Yeah, sure. So, hands down, it's the mental aspect. For me, with the meth addiction, especially 20 years and starting so early, there was a lot of rewiring of my brain, thought processes, thought patterns, behaviors, belief systems, that are built in over a period of time, and you start to you hang out in a certain crowd, and you live life a certain way, and you're taught, you learn a certain lifestyle in certain ways, and develop all those beliefs. And so then when you get out and you stop doing drugs, and you now you're just this sober person who has no idea what's going on. And I think the hardest part was there was a mental struggle, a war in my mind and still, even in some cases, and here I am, I've got 10 years clean, 9 years clean. Is it 9 or 10? A lot now. And still I struggle back and forth. Like, some of the things that she was talking about, the gaslighting and things like that, I didn't even realize a lot of the things that I was doing, and it not excusable in any way. It's not what I mean. But what I'm saying is, mentally, I actually thought I was right. Like, and so it was that bad, and so there was it was retraining and rewiring and allowing God, I'll put it like this, allowing God to renew my mind, and change my heart. And the key word there is allowing, because if I would not have humbled myself and accepted that I was, something was wrong with me, beyond the meth, and realized, you know what, my wife, maybe she's not wrong. Maybe these things she's saying about me are accurate. Maybe I need to do some digging and start to ask God and figure out, what do I need to do? We went to a lot of Christian counseling. I went to a lot of Christian counseling. And so, and it helped, man. There was a lot of that helped. And there were some things that were brought out, but it was the mental aspect, and also relearning how to live in the world as it is, society, the way that it actually is. I had a hard time even going to a movie or it was hard for me to have fun, doing what I'll call them normal people, right? Because I'm normal now, I think, maybe. I don't
sometimes I don't even know if
what is normal.
I don't really know what normal is.
Sure.
But I will say to you this, I remember calling one of my friends, and I said, what do you do I got out of treatment. I said, what do you do? He said, what do you mean? You know my vocation. I said, no, we're like, what do you do every day?
Outside of that.
Because the enemy has stripped away all of my life besides drinking, right?
It's the only way it's fun.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what normal people do. And I had to learn, there are really no normal people. We all have things that we're dealing with. Each one of you talk about what life is like now with Jesus in the center.
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Got it. Sure. So it is, Ervin, it has been or I should say everyone, with Jesus in my life, life is so much better than I ever imagined it could be. God has truly, in a humble me right down to my knees, blessed me, undeservingly blessed me with so many things on so many levels that I am just in awe of what he's done in my life, Ervin. And I am truly blessed in every way. And so life with Jesus has been worth living. The life that I was living without Jesus was not worth living.
That's good. That's good. Christina, add to that.
Okay. So definitely I've learned to trust and get to know Jesus and through all of the trials, right? And I've learned, like, he's my compass. If you're without a compass, like, where do you go? What do you do? Like, I'm lost without him. So it's comforting and reassuring. I have confidence in the direction that I'm going and the things that I'm aligned with. It's peaceful, a lot of times peaceful. Like, I know there's crazy things that still happen, right, in the world and in our lives even. Even right now we're going through a huge trial in our life, but oh man, with Jesus in the center, like, I don't think I'm going to get any more like gray hair from stress. And like, it's just, it's easier and it's better, and you can have fun without the substances. Absolutely. You still have fun and, have a good time.
You are so right. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm having so much more fun now that I'm so replaced and I love the Lord. Life is a blast. Does not mean it's without challenges, and this is where I'm leading us. Over half the marriages now, they're about in divorce, and I'm amazed at how quick people give up on their spouse. Encourage them and talk about, yes, it's hard, but how do you guys address it when you have to have courageous conversation and you have conflict?
Okay. So for me, it has really helped me to pinpoint that, like, I kind of view it as, because now that I know Cory's heart, right? We have gotten to a place where I know his heart, and his heart is genuine, and he loves his family and he loves me. And so when these things pop up and this behavior pops up, or I know, like, no, that's not really Cory. That's not, how he believes, right? I know that it's the enemy picking on Cory. Yeah. And so I go straight to battle spiritually. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it turns around pretty quickly. But yeah, don't give up. Don't give up. Pray and fight these spiritual battles spiritually in prayer, and surround yourself with community and let them help you fight.
If you are if you're the man in the marriage, I say that it may be the other way around, but it seems like most cases it's the man messing up. And so I will say this. I think the thing that really helped our marriage and helped gain the most ground as far as something that I was able to do, man, forget about yourself. Like, put yourself aside in every argument. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but once I figured out how to just stop trying to be right, stop worrying about who's right. And it was so difficult for me because I would get so hung up on, but what you're saying doesn't even make sense, or there's no reason or logic to that, right? Like, I would say that, and that was what was in my head. And if there's no logic or reason, then how could you? And I would get hung up on this it made no sense. But here's the here is the thing that you have to do. You have to not care about who's right. And so you hear your wife, let her speak, let her talk, hear her to understand her, and be beside her in whatever it is that she needs you in. Doesn't matter if she's right or not, man. All she wants to do is be heard. You hear her and quit worrying about who's right.
Quit. That is phenomenal advice to you husbands out there.
Yes.
Because I'm with Cory, and I will say this: I have learned not always to react to everything my wife does and says.
Sure.
I have also learned I want to be the first one to apologize. Whether I'm wrong or right, I could feel like I'm right until the sun goes down, but I'm going to try to be, I practice it as a discipline, to be the one that says, hey, I apologize.
Yes.
So we can get back to a place of unity. We know the enemy hates unity. So let's pivot a little bit, and I want to talk about the importance of having the right mentors in your marriage and then in your recovery.
Sure. It's been huge. I would say game changer, deal breaker. Like having the right community around me has been huge. So whether that's it started with number one, let me just my wife is the strongest Christian, amazing, what a woman of God should look like woman that I've ever met. She has, when I got out and met her, I was still living in a halfway house, and she, in the condition that we just talked about.
Yeah.
And so she has held my hand through this journey and taught me how to be sober, how to have fun sober, how to help me to rewire my brain, help me teach me social etiquette, all these things. And she has been amazing. So she was actually part of my support while I was messing up with her. She was meanwhile being a support for me. And so, but our church family, we got involved in church, and the leaders in church really looked out for me and helped me and spoke life into me, gave me confidence to speak in front of people, helped me in so many ways. And then God led the right Christian brothers into my life, including you, Ervin, but led the right people to me. And he opened the door, and all I had to do was walk through it. And so, but you can't have a relationship with somebody. You know, God can send you all the right people, all the people that he wants you to hang out with. But if you don't do it, like if you don't actually put your foot forward and call them and hang out and reach out, then it doesn't work. But God sent me all the right people, and he has been, I would say that has made all the difference.
Yeah. And the thing about Cory that I love, and I'm saying this in front of your wife, is that we met, and people have to realize this. When God brings people into your life that can mentor you, walk alongside you, and love on you, it's your responsibility to reach out to them.
Yeah.
My mentors, they call, but I'm the one that does the calling. Hey, can we have coffee? Hey, can you meet? Hey, I have this issue. What I realized with some of the people that I deal with and I mentor, they won't call. They expect that I'm going to call. I will call you, like you said earlier, when the Lord says ping, I'm going to do that. But if you have a mentor or someone that is in your life the Lord brought, it's your responsibility to also steward that relationship well, right? And so, Christina, now you share. What do you think? So talk about the importance of having mentors and people to walk alongside you in your marriage and in your life just in general.
Yes. Okay. So very important. I touched on it briefly earlier. You know, when you're partying and having all this fun, you have a community, right? It's there.
Yeah.
It's more important, I think, to have a community on the sober side of things. Yeah. And we went through a lot of counseling, initially individual and marital counseling. And then our church group is huge for us.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's interesting just sitting here talking about it. I think as women, sometimes, you know, we're always making sure like our kids are good and our husbands are good. And
I think I forgot. Sorry. Like, it was so important for me to make sure that Cory was good. And so you see him with these mentors like yourself, and like he's on the right path and doing good, and you see your kids are doing good. And I think somewhere along the way, I forgot that I need that support too. And so thanks to your show, I'm going to make sure that I get that. And I already have connections that God sent through Cory like a week ago. And so I'm going to get connected too, so we can do like a 2-year review. We'll come back on and I'll be way more equipped to tell you the importance, like specifically in my life.
No, but you did a great point. And when I met Cory, I already knew that you had to be a steadfast and diligent woman of the living God. I already knew that. Then I find out I know your hi Dad, we're here, we're doing it. But talk about your dad's impact on you choosing a husband.
Okay. So probably initially you wouldn't see it. My dad is, he's a man of integrity and character, and he taught me in many practical applications that I was going through how important your word is in keeping it, and just the importance of being upright, right? And so you probably wouldn't guess initially that I applied those, but I did see something in Cory, and probably the Lord, right? Like showing me who he really was. But it was important for me to have those things that I saw in my dad. And, my dad gave up, high paying jobs to make sure that he was at home at night with us. And those were some very real conversations that Cory and I had before we got married. Where is your heart in this? And, you can kind of tell the way people act and, what they're doing, where their heart is. So yeah.
I love that because you saw past who he was at the time to who the Lord was going to build him to be, right? And I would have to say the same thing about my wife, because I look at that cat and I'm like, I don't know what you saw in that fella. You sure you okay? So we have a few minutes left, and I know you both prayed a lot about the show and what you were going to say. So I want each of you to take some time, and I want you to express what the Lord has put on your heart to our viewers.
I want to say that if you are, I want to start with, it's always going to revolve around addiction for me, but if I want to start with the parents, the moms of someone who's an addict, the dads of someone who's an addict, sister, brother, wife of someone who's an addict, your daughters and your sons and your husband and your loved ones, they're still in there. It doesn't matter if it's been 10 years, 20 years, or even 30 years. It does not matter. Their heart's there somewhere, even if you don't even recognize them right now. Their heart's there. And if God can help me, I was the person that no one thought would make it, that would end up in a ditch dead or in a hotel with a needle in my arm dead. If he can help me after 20 years being where I was, he can help your son or your daughter come out of this mess that they're in. He can not only help them be out of this mess, but they can be successful. They can live he will fully restore everything that the enemy's stolen from them, including his family, including you. God is good, and there's nothing impossible with him.
So I just want to encourage anyone that is married to an addict that you hang in there and you pray and you hold on to any prophetic words that you're given. You hold on to the things that God speaks to you in your quiet moments with him, in the moments that you are torn up. You hang on to those and you keep praying and fighting, and you look for the good. The bad is so easy to see, but you challenge yourself and you look for the good. What things do you see turning around? Ask God to show you a manifestation. Show me that you're working in, this addict's life, and show me that you're working in my marriage. And he's going to start to show those things to you, and you write them down so the enemy can't steal them. And then you keep going and you keep going. And pretty soon that paper's going to be full. And pretty soon you won't even have to write those things down. You might have to go back and read that paper from time to time, but you're not going to even have to write those things down anymore. And, keep in mind that this world is not a friend of marriage. This world is not a friend of godly things. And as Christians, we're to live a godly life, and that can be really tough. So you hang in and get a community, and you fight for your marriage and for your kids.
Thank you. And thank you both for blessing me and blessing us. And I just know that God is going to really do some amazing things through your ministry and through each of you. So my word for the year is steadfast. So my prayer is that you remain steadfast in your calling, in your assignment, and in your anointing. Then I'm going to talk to you. I want you to know God is love. God is love, and he cannot deny who he is. He cannot deny his character. So he's faithful to love you no matter where you are, no matter how far down you believe you've gone in sin and shame. God can rescue you. Here's the hope. He rescued Cory and I, and he rescued Christina, his wife. So here's hope in and through us. And there's two things that the world is looking for now. That's hope and that's peace. Here's the hope, and Jesus is your peace. God loves you. He's not mad at you, and he has a great plan for your life. God bless you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's From Beer to the Bible. Make sure to tune in next week when Ervin and Sarah gift you with even more addiction recovery information. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember, we're always there for you.